I'm sorry, but this is all very weird. So some random guy drove nearly 300 miles from Rotherham to a tiny village in Devon, to the home of outspoken right-wing politician Anne Widdecombe, murdered her, didn't steal anything, then immediately drove 300 miles back home. Police say no evidence it was politically motivated.
At this stage, there is nothing to suggest that it was politically motivated.
And not to speculate on what happened.
We're aware of online and public speculation, particularly with regards to motive. Again, I urge people not to share or engage with that speculation. It's unhelpful.
Despite CCTV footage showing the man loading a wooden stick into the vehicle before he set off. Okay, then that makes perfect sense. Anne Widdecombe's home was so well known it was literally called Widdecombe's Rest and listed on Google Maps. And the property featured on a television show broadcast just days before the attack.
It's nice, isn't it?
Hello.
How do you
Anne.
do? Angus.
Hi.
Well, it's incredible of you. I can see why you're living here.
Not premeditated, though. No political motive. Okay, the suspect is being reported as having learning difficulties. As if having learning difficulties suddenly means you're incapable of harbouring political grudges. While it apparently does mean you're still capable of embarking on long-haul journeys. Using a car that neighbours said was so out of use it literally had weeds growing out of it. Learning difficulties that didn't stop the suspect completing a gruelling car journey, which would take at least 4.5 hours, through the morning rush hour, arriving in time to carry out the murder by 12:30, having only set off just before 8 AM. No stops for fuel either, meaning he must have filled up the previous day, suggesting it was planned. It just feels impossible to do so if it wasn't premeditated. From Rotherham at 7:50, you're hitting traffic straight away getting on the motorway that sits between Sheffield and Rotherham, and then driving down the M1 past Nottingham and Derby without hitting traffic at 8:30, then cutting through Birmingham at 9 AM.
On the face of it, if a bloke drives 300 miles at breakneck speed, I've done the maths, I've looked at the number of miles and the number of hours that he had to do that journey, carrying what looks very like a weapon in his pocket, all the way down to an elderly lady's house and bludgeoned her to death, unless he's got some link with her that we don't know about, then that's looking to me like it's pretty political.
The first guy, they arrested him, then released him shortly after. Presumably the driver of the mysterious black VW who parked oddly in a lay-by, then walked up to her house. Don't know what happened to that detail, it appears to have just vanished. But both guys they rushed to assure us were white British.
White British man.
Something they never do when the suspect is non-white. Former Met Police Detective Roy Ram said a political motive couldn't be ruled out.
It is a remote location. She is a public figure. What led the person there? You could argue that initially there is evidence of a planned attack.
Widdecombe herself appeared on TV to rail against establishment attacks on Nigel Farage just days before her death.
Does this establishment of which you and Nigel speak actually exist?
Yes, I believe it does. Now, I didn't always believe in that theory, but I do think now that different parts of the establishment act in ways which I think are extremely questionable.
I mean, come on. Even people like Piers Morgan are saying it makes no sense. Who just gets up one morning and decides to randomly murder a 78-year-old woman at the other end of the country for absolutely no reason whatsoever? Was it just a schizo who decided to do it after seeing her on TV? Maybe. But she had a lot of haters. The Rainbow people absolutely despised her, as evidenced by the disgusting celebratory outpouring on Blue Sky after her death was announced. The police assured us it wasn't political, even as they were questioning the wrong suspect. But don't speculate, because the family says they don't want her death hijacked for political purposes, even though members of her family were literally stood side by side with Nigel Farage and other Reform Party leaders at the eulogy. Farage being the most prominent skeptic of the official narrative, saying he believes 100% that it wasn't a burglary gone wrong and that it was almost certainly premeditated. And lo and behold, right before I started recording this video, they announced counter-terror police leading Anne Widdecombe investigation, which could only mean, in all likelihood, that it was politically motivated, after they spent the last 3 days insisting it wasn't,
There is nothing to suggest that it was politically motivated.
and chastising anyone who suggested it might be as engaging in dangerous speculation.
I urge people not to share or engage with that speculation.
Many have likened Widdicombe's murder to that of Jill Dando, the BBC presenter who was murdered on her own doorstep in Fulham. The authorities basically framed a guy with learning difficulties called Barry George, who actually went to prison for years before his conviction was overturned. Dando's killer was never found, his motive never uncovered, and after everything that's happened, Dr. David Kelly, the Welsh choir boy, Henry Novak, they're still surprised that people don't trust the police.